if you listen to them and read between the lines, then the coaches have kind of accepted the NIL, whether there are varying degrees of acceptance of whether it should be there or not, they've accepted that it's part of the realm. They just want a way to deal with it. That's it. That's all they want, is a way to deal with it. That's fair. That's fair. Just like, the players, the athletes for a long time wanted a way to make money, okay? It's all fair to discuss, just a way to deal with it that they understand and can promote fairness. That's it.
Here's the response. I'm sorry. Yeah. Go ahead.
I was going to say that all I've been saying for like the last 2 days is that, yes, there will be somebody who squawks from the back row about, you don't want to pay the athletes or whatever nonsense. And Paul, that's all I've been saying this entire time. That's all anybody wants. It's not, no. Take the money back from these guys. They don't deserve it. There might be some redneck or some northerner or some, anybody from anywhere who feels that way, who's just stuck in the mud in the old ways or something like that. But screw their opinion, quite frankly. So when it comes to everybody who's actually on a normal operating brain level, that's all we're saying. It's just have some structure. That's all anybody really wants. It's not anti-NIL. It's not anti-athlete. It's just have some stuff in place. That's it, for the love of God.
Which is what, when I received those YouTube comments and replies from our show yesterday or the day before, people are not listening. Dr. Ivan Smith and also going raw with Huck. We don't, the money to athletes, great. Fine. And for many years, they were abused with it. I get it. Things change. Rules change. Laws change. People's philosophies change. But for anyone to think there should not be some sort of guardrails, and I use guardrails because I think of bumper cars, whatever. Then we'll never agree on much at all. And but like Todd said, coaches have been saying, boys and girls, hey, this is coming. And some are going to go by different rules than others. Yes, there's probably been a lot of cheating going on no matter what. We always think about the days of the 60s, 70s, or the 80s. But it's amazing to me, the administrators, whoever they are. And when we have Mac on next Tuesday, he's there. When we have him on that, how the hell did you let this happen as far as the athletic
We know exactly how. I just asked Todd about it. We're waiting on federal legislation. We're waiting on federal legislation. We're waiting on federal legislation. And that's why I have to finally ask him, is this even coming? Because y'all have been saying that, and I'm not saying him directly, but you know how many times Mac Rhodes responded with that? Because that's their answer, is that we're waiting for the government to tell us what to do. Because why? Because they know that they can't actually do anything because they're powerless. And as soon as they try to start something, it's immediately going to get shot through, like I was talking about with the example earlier. So they are totally powerless. They have zero power. And so they are at the mercy of the government, and yet the government's got quite a few things going on. And so that's why every time I hear, well, we're waiting, well, y'all got to figure out something, because when you're proactive, you come up with a plan that's going to get shot down immediately, and when you sit on your hands, all hell breaks loose. So there's got to be a middle ground somewhere, I would think, in there.
Well, and then let's fast forward and look to the time where maybe this thing can come up and get discussed and voted on. Okay.
Good luck.
So let's just say that there's a hypothetical time in a couple of years. So what runs the government? Money, right? Money runs the government. Yep. Lobbyists run the government. You don't think that some of these NIL people who are giving millions of dollars to collectives without rules are also not giving money to lobbies?
Of course they are.
And politicians? Because that's what they do. So I'm curious to see where some of this intersects, and you'll start hearing people go, well, I don't know if that's a great idea. And then you can trace back, well, this guy got money from this guy who's an alum of this place, who's in this NIL collective and doesn't want it messed with.
Yeah, I mean, basically your point is, you can say, well, hey, the government intervenes. And, well, I mean, that might make it even more corrupt than ever. So, that's not a solution either. So, I think it probably is going to, the only thing I can keep coming back to, and people in the chat, please tell me if you have a different idea, but this is going to almost have to turn into an employee thing for them to be able to have any sort of rules that they can actually apply, because the whole reason they can't do anything is because these people are basically independent contractors under the letter of the law, or scholarship athletes, not a full-time employee. So I'm thinking the employment status thing, which I know would be a major 180 from the way it's been, that seems about like the only way But I know there's smarter people out there to tell me I'm wrong or tell me there's a different way. But that seems like the only way to actually get any sort of enforcement going.
Appreciate everybody in the chat. There's a lot of good stuff going on. We'll try to come back with some of your comments. Here's one from RH5. Here's my thought. If you take away the one-time no sit-out transfer rule and limit the overall size of the football team, could this help limit the power that NIL has?
Well, you can't take it. Well, because then the argument would be, well, so now you're restricting their movement of freedom.
Yep.
I mean, there's always a response.
David Floyd, have you guys seen the California bill that states that pay is dependent on how much each school makes in revenue, and the percentages are specified by the state government of California? Doesn't Stanford have like the largest endowment, Harvard, Texas, in those?
Yeah, they do. Then this bill, a lot of people are saying that's a Title IX.
What's the difference between revenue and endowment?
Well, an endowment is gift.
Yes.
Revenue is what you make.
Yeah, it's earnings. Yeah,
ticket sales.
Endowment's like what the big pile of gold they're sitting on.
Yeah.
But the revenue that they get, and I've seen a lot of people talking about the California law and how it would relate to Title IX, and that if you base it on how much revenue things get, well, football's going to still get all the revenue, and then softball's still not going to make all that much money because their ticket sales are going to be drastically. You could sell at every softball game in a 2,500 seat stadium and every football game in a 75,000 seat stadium, and the revenue's still not going to be the same.
And then there's the TV part of it, which is completely flips the
So even if everything was perfect, you're going to have revenue discrepancies. So it's actually more of what's called a Title IV issue, which would be too boring to even get into. So there's a lot. California, I don't know if this is going to get through because there's no way to actually enforce it.
All right,
or actually practically apply it.
I wonder if at some point, and then we're at the top of the hour for 4 o'clock, Title IX was originally about making sure there were equal opportunities for female student athletes to play in athletics, correct?
Yes.
To be a part of sports. And then, of course, it started to go off the rails with other things and ideas. That's okay. But the bottom line was Title IX was to ensure that females, women, we have Faith Lynch, who's in our studio. She's on the Baylor volleyball team. So that they could have an opportunity to have scholarships to play athletics in college, no matter what school. Equal amount of scholarships for schools. Is this ever going to get to a point where enough that are following or understand or want and keep Title IX? Is this eventually going to be, wait a minute, 99.9% of all this NIL money, no matter about the girls that were at Fresno State that go to Miami, isn't this kind of only going to the men's athletes? Is that ever going to be a topic? Is anyone ever going to say...
Well, no, because NIL's the free market.
Okay.
Yeah. So NIL's the free market. You can't, it just like... the WNBA can complain about their attendance, but they're in the free market.
Their problem is the fact that their value, no matter how much is publicized, no matter how popular it is, the bottom line is their television ratings, even though they've been better, they're not bringing in much revenue.
No matter how many times they yell at their fans, tell them they're sexist and they're bad people, and
we got a lot of you. We're going to get to more of this from JW. Federal legislation will occur only when the courts issue an antitrust ruling.
Yeah. See, we'll
get into that. It's a bunch of great stuff here.